Smash Summit 13 was a turbulent ride to say the least. The event began smoothly with Thursday's pre-bracket events. As Friday the 13th approached, we scoffed at the silly superstition. But tragedy struck, and by the finals of Sunday, only 13 players remained in bracket. Smash Summit 13 was the most unpredictable summit of all time, but with that uncertainty came some great storylines. So today, let's talk about them. Going into this summit, it felt like it would be Zane versus the field. For those who saw our handy summit preview, you'll definitely understand that. Among the attendees were two gods, Mango and HBox, the God Slayer Leffen, and Zane, who just won both Genesis 8 and Pound. Joining them were a slew of dark horses, from known faces like the Summit 12 winner iBDW and Genesis 5 victor Plup, to lesser known but seriously strong contenders like Salt, Mech, and Frenzy. Amidst the insane talent pool, one player would emerge victorious, and despite the uncertainty they faced, one thing was certain. He was doing work. That's right. This Sunday, Panda's Cody Schwab, aka iBDW, was crowned victorious at Summit 13, becoming the first player to ever achieve back-to-back Summit victories since Armada. Now, it may seem at first that this was incredibly predictable. The man won the last Summit. But coming up on this event, it really was a question. In the past month or so leading up to Summit, the New York Fox faced multiple challenges, from falling third at Genesis behind Summit attendees Zane and Jmook, to underplacing at 9th at both the major Pound 2022 as well as the New York Regional The Function 2. It's been a difficult time for iBDW, but through trial and tribulation, he emerged successful at Summit 13 with an absolutely deserved and nearly effortless run. Let's break it down. The official events kicked off on Friday with round-robin pools, where groups of 4 out of the 16 total competitors were all to play each other. Whoever wins the most sets in their pool gets a bye to Sunday's main bracket, whereas everyone else must continue to play on Saturday. Summit 13 started and ended with iBDW. On Friday, iBDW played a quick 3-0 in a Fox Ditto against Blue, the top Fox in Indiana. iBDW would then round out his pool for the day with a match versus UK's top Falco Frenzy. Frenzy would manage to take a game, but ultimately fell 3-1 in the set. On Saturday, iBDW did not play. We'll get to that. On Sunday, he tore through winners and stayed there till the end. In winners quarterfinals, iBDW faced none, where he executed a mechanical set on the Falcon, winning 3-1. Next was Melee's new hotness, Jmook. Despite Jmook seeming like a fresh face to many, he was actually the first person to ever beat iBDW in a tournament, and at Genesis 8, Jmook's breakout performance, the seemingly new Sheik beat iBDW 3-0. But today, finally, iBDW would take his turn at the top, saving himself from the jaws of defeat twice over to win 3-1. A close game 1 would set the tone and be decided by Jmook failing to cover some Shine Stall into low Firefox recoveries from iBDW. iBDW did his homework, so we're excited to see the next layer of adaptation from Jmook next time they meet. iBDW then approached the Clutch God and Winners Finals. He proved his solid puff game plan and didn't let his nerves get to him, resulting in a 3-1 win. Finally, Grand Finals emerged. We know the victor, but we don't know the whole story. So here is where we pause. Let's go back to Friday when everything made sense, and finally discuss all of our other players. As we mentioned earlier, the first pool, Group B, held iBDW, Frenzy, Blue, and Plup. Plup would also emerge victorious over both Blue and Frenzy. Next came Group A, which held Mr. Number 1 Zane, Dark Gen X, head TO of New York's Melee scene, Nun the Falcon powerhouse, and Laud, the best modern Peach. Of all the nuttiness and unpredictability this summit, Laud's run was by far the longest, playing 13 sets total where even iBDW only played 6. We have an upcoming deep dive covering this marathon run in full detail, so be sure to subscribe to PGstats for Brintos' soon-to-air breakdown of Dr. Laud's unbelievable Summit 13 run. Pool number 2 started with Zane versus Dark Gen X, along with his mob of VIPs donning Justin shirts. Dark Gen X chose to play Ices from his unique roster of characters, but Zane's practice against Zane fans 1 and 2 paid off, resulting in a 3-0 over Dark Gen X. Friday also had a Golden Guardians face-off between Nun and Zane. Zane would take the first 2 games before dropping a game and counterpicking Yoshi's story. Nun saw this as a ripe opportunity to play the best character on his best stage. That's right, Ganondorf. The unwarmed-up Giga Chad Ganon did manage to take a stock, but it does make you wonder just what kind of match fixing those Golden Guardians were up to. Group B wrapped up with Dark Gen X versus Laud, and although Dark Gen X was indeed schmoovin' on him, it wouldn't be enough to take a game from Laud. But his impact would be felt throughout the weekend, weekend, and in the end, the question must be asked, should we legalize Do Wobbly? Group C came next, featuring HBox, Kadoran, the FlyQuest represented Marth, Leffen the Godslayer from Sweden, and Salt, Texas's top Falcon. Notably, in Leffen vs Kadoran, we were given another look at the recently debuted Left Sheik, which dealt a swift 3-0 to the Marth. The third pool came to an end for the day with an interesting match between Leffen and Salt. Leffen opted to use his tried and true Fox against the Falcon. Leffen was hot off a 3-0 and has a solid history against top-tier Falcon players, but Salt managed to push Leffen to a Game 5. Ultimately, Leffen would prevail, but this was a mean feat for the upcoming Falcon. For the final Group D, we saw Mango, Sora, Australian's top player and Fox main, J-Mook, the New York Sheik that's holding everyone's attention lately, and Mech, Illinois' inspirational Falcon. Mango in pools was fire, taking Sora and Mech 3-0, but the infallible scientists of Twitch chat correctly speculated that a Mango dominating pools is not a Mango who wins Summit. Next, we saw J-Mook, who remained simple, sweet, calm, and collected, and prevailed 3-2 against both Sora and Mech. At this point, things were looking nice and predictable, with hardly any upsets coming out of the day prior. However, going into Saturday, there was a tragic COVID-19 outbreak at Smash Summit 13. Ultimately, 3 players removed themselves from the venue on Saturday: Dark Gen X, Sora, and Plup. Any non-essential staff and all VIPs sadly also had to leave the venue, and spirits were overall low. But the first silver lining appeared when Axe, the best Pikachu in the world and a Summit 13 VIP, threw a Papa John's pizza watch party for all COVID-negative VIPs remaining at their hotel. Then, the head TO Contra, perhaps at one point getting some help from Dr. Laud, took on the arduous task of balancing all of Summit's already fairly wacky bracket formats to swiftly bring things back on track. Because of this, there was some confusion on how the event's brackets were to work before the main bracket began on Sunday. Luckily, we're here to help you understand exactly what happened. It's time for Bracketology 101. Summit starts with 4 groups of 4 players playing a round-robin set. Everyone in the pool plays each other. The winner gets a bye to Sunday's main bracket, but all the other players enter what is known as a gauntlet stage, another group of round-robin brackets to decide who makes it into winner's side and who makes it into loser's side of the main bracket. The first wave of round-robin groups began on Friday and bled into Saturday before the gauntlet group. To start off Saturday, each pool group had to play 2 more sets to determine who made it directly into the bracket and who had to fight in the gauntlet stage. Because Sora, Dark Gen X, and Plup DQ'd from the event, this meant that some groups only had to play out 1 set. Make sense so far? Good. On Saturday, Group A was the first bracket to work out their missing player problem. Dark Gen X was DQ'd from his match versus None, so all that was left to conclude Group A's pool was a match between Laud and Zane. This game did not go as planned. Shocking the entire community, Laud triumphed 3-1 against the great player Zane, even gimping him on his own stage picking Game 3. This Laud victory unfortunately led to a 3-way tie in the scoring for Group A. Thus, a Devil's 3-way emerged as the only solution. The tiebreaker would have each player compete in a best of 3 set to determine who made it directly into bracket and who would go into the gauntlet. Zane played None, then None played Laud, then Laud had a rematch with Zane. Zane prevailed over None 2-1, then managed to quickly crack Laud's code to beat the Peach 2-0. Finally, None played Laud, and while None started the day with low morale, he pulled through 2-1. In addition to Group A, Group B and Group D each played out 1 set. For Group B, this is why iBDW had no Saturday games. Plup had DQ'd from the match. The match that finished out Group B was Frenzy vs Blue, and Frenzy was dominating. Then in Group D, Mech received the bye from Sora's absence, but his Friday performance was not strong enough to save him from the gauntlet. J-Mook and Mango concluded the pool for Group D in a Game 5 situation. Mango brought the heat and the damage, reverse 3-0ing J-Mook to secure a 3-2 victory and a bye from the gauntlet. Group C ended up being the only round-robin group to play out their sets as they should have been played. Leffen and his Fox destroyed the box in a quick 3-0. Then Kadoran beat Salt in a match that looked clinical. Now, let's check out the gauntlet stage. Usually, Summit features 4 gauntlets of 3 players each, but following the player drops, Summit 13's gauntlet stage would feature 3 gauntlets of 3 players each. These gauntlets are a tiny bracket style pool, where the 2 lowest seeded players duke it out and the winner plays the highest seeded player. After the gauntlet stage is played out, the first seed is seeded into the winner's side with the players that won their initial round robin pool, and the second seed goes into the unique to Summit 13 winners playoffs, and whoever loses, similar to the second place seeders, must also play another unique round robin. This round robin has the stakes of either A, winning winning and getting a bye in losers for a guaranteed 9th in bracket, B, getting 2nd and having to play the first losers match in the main bracket, or C, going home. In Group B, FighterZ beat Salt in a very close match, but then lost to None in the second set despite some really great neutral. The set count ended up being 1-0 None, 1-1 FighterZ, and Salt 0-1. From Group D, Kadoran clutched out a win over Blue, but was then taken down by Jmook in the next match. Finally, Group C saw Lod beat Mech in a quick 3-0. Then we had another edition of the arduous time-ticking battle between HBox and Lod. HBox popped off so hard mid-game, the Summit staff had to come bring him back to earth. Some noted that Lod was smart in this set, staying out of the pop-off radius. However, this was not enough, and the clutch box prevailed again, 3-2. So, the gauntlet concluded with None, Jmook, and HBox in winners for the main bracket, FighterZ, Kadoran, and Lod going into Sunday's winners playoffs, and Salt, Mech, and Blue duking it out in Saturday's losers playoffs. Following the gauntlet came the losers playoffs. First came Salt versus Blue, where right out the gate Salt was crushing Blue, even using a brawl-style grab release. Blue managed a strong comeback, taking 2 games and demonstrating good neutral play. In the end, Salt fared the air 4 times in a row, but then beat Blue 3-2. Next came a Falcon Ditto with Mech versus Salt, where the question arose of which underdog Falcon would dominate. Ultimately, both players were more focused on style over winning, but Salt eventually bested Mech 3-2. Then the two fusion danced into some push-ups together. Finally, Mech played Blue. Mech started slow, even giving Blue a Bobby stock. However, Mech cleaned it up quick and won 3-2, finally being able to give that chest a rest. Thus, Salt was granted the guaranteed 9th spot in losers. Mech would go on to Sunday, but would have to first fight the loser of the winners playoffs and losers bracket, and sadly, Blue would end his run here. With the beginning of Sunday meant more changes, but thankfully fewer than the day before. Sadly, Blue had to go home due to potential COVID exposure, but Plup was back with a negative test. Due to his high seeding on Friday, no gauntlet stage was needed. However, his DQ versus iBDW now meant that he would be in the winners playoffs, along with Kadoran, Lod, and FighterZ, which was the first activity of the day. This would bump Sunday's entrance back to the magic number 13. Despite taking a day off for his health, Plup came in strong on Sunday, even pulling out the Zelda at one point to secure a patient but clean victory over Lod. In winners playoffs, the final results were Plup 3-0, Lod 2-1, Kadoran 1-2, and FighterZ 0-3. Finally, our bracket was set. The first set of the bracket started with Mech versus FighterZ. A Game 5 situation arose, but FighterZ came with the damage and a strong neutral to prevail 3-2. Though finishing 13th, Mech left a strong mark on the community, and his positivity and inspirational beat will keep the fans coming. Next, we jump to the winner's side to see the ever attention-grabbing rivalry of Mango versus HBox. As HBox put it, it was a battle of chicken, and HBox's strong ledge plays led to his 3-1 victory. Following this game came Zane versus Plup, which would turn into a Game 5 last stock, last hit situation. Ultimately, Zane would bet the whole set on a race to the ledge, but would find himself falling into the loser's bracket. Finally, we saw Jmook versus Leffen. Leffen has always held on to his advantage in this traditionally Fox-favored matchup, and yet, despite this being Jmook's first battle against the God Slayer, he was able to clinch the Game 5 set with his last stock. Losers 8s began with Mango Kadoran. Kadoran played incredibly, demonstrating an excellent ability to execute kills. The game was so close and it all came down to Game 5. As the talented creator and smasher Rishi put it, Kadoran beat Mango with an empty hop into F smash, which is just like how the retired Marth Mewtwo King won the Big House 2019 over iBDW. Mango reacted with a shield, and with that shield, Mango was out of Summit at 9th. Zane went on to play Salt, and this game was close. Salt maneuvered around Zane with tight dash dances, ultimately falling at 9th to a painful SD. Then FighterZ played None. FighterZ had been utilizing amazing spacing all weekend, which carried him through 3 incredibly close Game 5s here. But None would be better at executing kills, leading to a 3-2 victory for the Falcon and a 9th place for FighterZ. To round out losers 8s, Leffen played Lod in yet another historic match to come out of this summit, where Leffen rounded out the 9th place tie. But for that match, you'll have to wait for the next PGstats video. Losers round 3 began with Kadoran versus Zane in a Marth Ditto, and while Zane had been having an unpredictable weekend, here he was clean, earning a 3-0 and sending Kadoran out at 7th place. Kadoran was then joined in 7th by None, who was stomped back by Lod and a seriously tanky Peach. Winners semifinals approached, and the aforementioned set between iBDW and Jmook started it off, ending 3-1 in favor of iBDW. After this game, iBDW revealed Jmook's greatest strength.
It's in the most basic way, he's the best person at watching a screen in Melee. Every decision he makes is like so based on what's happening right in front of him, and a lot of people have like autopilots. They'll have like, okay, this happened, so this is my follow-up. He basically never does that. He's always watching and has obviously really good execution and reaction time. But on top of that, he watches everything so carefully and makes decisions like at the last possible second.
Next, Plup came to face HBox. It felt as though ever since HBox was scolded for his pop-off on Saturday, he was turbo wound up with pop-off juice. Unfortunately for Plup, HBox clutched it out, and with all that immense energy stored inside him in such a close match, he erupted with the loudest pop-off known to man, echoing from the venue halls like he was in your ear, then came back to gingerly unplug the Red Bull light in the setup room, all for his Team Liquid Monster deal. Now that's some good sponsored player loyalty. Losers quarters began with Jmook versus Zane, the Genesis Grand Finals run back. Back then, Zane was the only thing able to stop Jmook from winning his breakout tournament, but this time was different, and Zane ended up double eliminated by lightning fast Sheik mains. Next, it was time for Laud to play Plup, who was still recovering from that HBox pop-off. Perhaps the Clutch God's cries imbued Plup with a secret power, or Plup was just cracked. Either way, Plup out-damaged, out-neutraled, and out-executed his kills all to win 3-1, ending Laud's incredible 13-set run. At Losers semifinals, Jmook came off the heels of his Zane victory to face Plup. Jmook was playing amazing, even making a comeback at one point. But Plup? He was going TAS, doubling the inputs per minute of Jmook with carefully planned movement. Plup would prevail 3-1, ending Jmook's summit run at 4th. But the impression Jmook made on everyone was clear, and we are all looking forward to him becoming another sponsored Melee great. In Winners Finals, HBox seemingly lost power with that last pop-off, being sent to Losers unceremoniously as iBDW prevailed 3-1. HBox would then face Plup in the last Losers battle. The games were close, stock for stock, game for game. We arrived at game 5. HBox was down to 1 stock, Plup was at 2. Would the clutch box be able to prevail? Well, he forgore. HBox only had 1 stock, so with that rest, HBox finished Summit 13 at 3rd place. Unpause. You remember how we were paused? It's finally time for Grand Finals, and a Panda Finals at that! Plup coming from the losers bracket he shredded through versus iBDW, who stayed dominating winner's side. Game 1 went soundly to Plup, who was up 3 stocks, but games 2 through 5 all went to last stock situations. In Game 2, iBDW followed Plup all across the stage, taking Plup's 3rd stock away at just 20%, and the start of Game 3, iBDW did it again, taking Plup's first stock in 15 seconds. In the end, iBDW took this set 3-2, winning Summit in a legitimately amazing grands. At the end of Summit 13, emotions were high. iBDW has prevailed through many challenges to stand where he does now, and the entire Summit team and the competitors all went through hell to make this event possible. This is a Summit to never forget. The best way to close this weekend out was with something Slime had to say at the end.
Terrible shit happens in our lives all the time, right? And I think Melee has always been, especially to us who've been in the community for like an ultra long time or somewhat a long time, or even just started out, it's like a place where you can just play the game and think about something else and feel connected to people. And that's what I feel whenever this event happens.
So, that was the Summit 13 recap from PGstats. Please like and subscribe for more PGstats content for more on the heartful scene that is Melee. And the Laud video!